Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. Great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, is former public protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane conflicted when it comes to issues that pertain to her former office in the Justice Committee? The current public protector, Kholeka Gcaleka, believes Mkhwebane is conflicted. Gcaleka says the conflict is compounded by the allegations that her husband has threatened the CEO of the Public Protector Office over the payment of Mkhwebane's gratuity. The Justice Committee Chair, Ola Ngola, will speak to us tonight. Also on the show, should the ANC, Action SA and the EFF share the metros in Gauteng? The EFF says discussions are underway for the ANC to be fully in charge of Johannesburg, for the EFF to take over Ekurhuleni, and Action SA to be in charge in Tshwane. But how would all of this work? The ANC secretary in Gauteng, Nciza, joins us. And then later, how much longer are South Africans going to wait before they can be allocated housing? There are many South Africans that have been on the waiting list for government housing. Some have waited as long as over 20 years. So what's the plan? The Minister of Human Settlements, Mmamoloko Kubayi, joins us tonight. But first, my comment. So the EFF leader, Julius Malema, has finally personally responded to former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. So far, his lawyers have been talking to Dr. Pandor's lawyers, but today he set the record straight. Here's some context, if you missed it. Julius Malema was on this show last month, and when I asked him a question about VBS, he first responded unprovoked by mentioning Naledi Pandor's name and claiming that she is linked somewhat to the VBS scandal. And I say unprovoked because my question had nothing to do with Naledi Pandor. I didn't even mention her name, or anyone's name for that matter, except Brian Shivambu, who is the brother of Floyd Shivambu, because he had since had to pay back some monies that he received from VBS, monies that he shouldn't have received in the first place. In fact, here is how Julius Malema responded when I asked about VBS when he was on Face the Nation.
Naledi Pandor was also in the VBS bond or something, which she was there. They are your darlings. You will never know their names. You know the names of those you don't like to demonstrate there's no principle.
So as you can hear, he was so emphatic. In fact, he said to me, as you can hear there, you guys are surprised by the involvement of people like Naledi Pandor because they are your media darlings. And the surprise for me was not because Pandor is a media darling. It's because I've never come across her name in the VBS report that I read by Terry Mutau. I've never come across her name in any other report, nor was she mentioned by law enforcement agencies as well. That was the first time, in my understanding, that her name was ever mentioned and linked to the VBS scandal. Now, Dr. Pandor then released a statement the next day after that interview, categorically denying any links to VBS and demanded that Julius Malema apologize. Her lawyers even contacted Malema, who then, through his own lawyers, said he didn't mean to impugn the reputation of Dr. Pandor. Dr. Pandor was on Face the Nation last week, and this is what she said about what Julius Malema said about her.
Well, I've actually lost hope with respect to Mr. Malema. I had thought that he would be the leader that he claims to be, a brave, courageous young leader, that he would stand up and admit that the slur that he cast on me was absolutely dishonest and very far from any factual knowledge of myself or my family. Mm-hmm. I'm really quite shocked that he's lacked the courage to stand up and rather through his lawyers speaks about it was adding to the political debate. There was no intention to harm me. I mean, he says, yes, Naledi Pandor. I mean, really, what more can one do in terms of harming a person?
Yeah.
But as I say, perhaps I shouldn't be surprised and I should leave the matter there. I'm glad that I have received this letter through my lawyer, from his lawyers, and in it, they clearly on his behalf admit that he was flying a kite.
So, as I said, Julius Malema today set the record straight. He was asked about this matter and the comments that he made linking Dr. Pandor to VBS. And this is what he said now about the woman he now even calls Mama Pandor.
On Mama Naledi Shemai, you know, I was making a political engagement in that interview. It's a political speech. It's a political speak. And I raised her name, and she clarified those things, that she has never been involved in those things and all of that. And she wrote a letter to me to ask for instruction and all of that. And I said, look, it's a political engagement. I respect you so much. And I've accepted the explanation you have given, and I don't intend to pursue that line, because now there is more clarity on what really transpired. And I've sent that letter, and I don't want to engage with her in a public spate. It's one of the respectable former ministers of our country who's at the forefront of fighting the struggles for the total liberation of Palestine. Why do you want to go into confrontation with such a person? So I did not say that to want to negatively impact on her image or anything. I was engaged in a political engagement. And she came back and said, no, but you are wrong. I'm not involved in the way you are describing it. I don't know what you're talking about and all of that, and accepted that. And that's a political engagement. That's how it works.
Oh my God, you've got to love politicians. So Pandor is now this respected politician. Mama Pandor, Mama Naledi, in fact, that's what we call her now. But when he was here and he made that statement about her, he was so emphatic, and he says, yeah, the media darling, but you won't talk about her and her involvement in VBS. And now Mama Naledi is the most revered politician. So Julius Malema says this was political engagement. What does he mean by that? And he says he doesn't want to engage with her in a public spate, and yet he is the one that dragged her name publicly without any evidence. But now he doesn't want to engage in public spates. The question I'm asking you tonight is, do you think politicians should be held accountable for harmful or false accusations, even under the guise of political speech or political engagement? Yeah? Do you think it's acceptable for political leaders to make serious accusations against one another only to justify them as political engagements when challenged to provide evidence? Or should politicians grow a thick skin and understand that the political space is toxic and sometimes people will drag you into things that you have nothing to do with? So don't be a baby, toughen up as a politician and keep it going. Or do you think politicians must still exercise some level of caution, even in their political engagements, and not make frivolous, incorrect statements about their counterparts? You can send us a WhatsApp voice note right now on 078 459 1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you're sending the voice note from. Please keep them at 30 seconds. Or you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. Let's look at this now. Public Protector Adv Kholeka Gcaleka clashed with her impeached predecessor, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, in Parliament today. Gcaleka has accused Mkhwebane of being conflicted concerning the Public Protector matters. She has further made allegations that Mkhwebane's husband, also a member of Parliament, threatened a member of her staff over the payment of Mkhwebane's gratuity. She was appearing before Parliament on her institution's performance. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development is Xola, who joins us now via Teams. Xola, thank you so much for making time for us on Face the Nation this evening. So the Public Protector, Kholeka Gcaleka, has accused Busisiwe Mkhwebane's husband, David Skosana, of threatening the Chapter 9 institution's CEO, Thandi Sibanyoni, over the payment of Mkhwebane's gratuity. Has the Public Protector been able to provide more information about this? And how are you dealing with it as the committee?
Well, good evening, Clement, and good evening to the viewers. I think let me first contextualize how this thing arose. The committee is now undergoing a process of budget review. Now we're receiving annual reports from all the entities that report to the committee. Now, part of what we track is the annual report from the financial year 2023-2024. Then the spending and performance of the first quarter of 2024-2025, and the forward funding proposals. Now, naturally, what we do there, we track the spending on how the monies of South Africans are being used by that particular entity. Now, the question arose about a particular security that is provided to the CEO of the Public Protector South Africa. Now, we saw nothing wrong from the question, because the question is actually trying to track the spending of Public Protector South Africa. Until such time when the Public Protector came back as part of the responses and alleged of issues relating to threats to the CEO and all that. Now, it's something that as the committee we're not averse about. It's something as the committee that we never reported about. So the best way that we said must be done is that the Public Protector must make a concrete, detailed report to the committee, a written report, so that we're able to track what actually is the causal link to all these issues. So that's what arose, and actually the issue of the vision, which I think the Public Protector well articulated it to the core.
What about the issue of conflict, which was raised? Does the committee think that the former Public Protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, is conflicted here? Because whoever has threatened the CEO of the Public Protector Office mentioned her name, and the Public Protector says that matter is now being reported to the police.
Look, Clement, the law in its current form now does not prohibit an impeached Public Protector or any head of Chapter 9 institution from being members of Parliament. Now, being a member of Parliament means they are going to partake in the Parliament proceedings fully, just like any other member. But if Advocate Mkhwebane seeks to use her membership in the committee to get back and fight her personal battles against the institution as the Public Protector South Africa, then she is completely wrong. But of course, as I said, we are going to receive the report. Where we see a potential conflict, we'll therefore refer the matter to the Ethics Committee to attend to it, because we can't allow the decorum of our own committee to be eroded on the basis of fighting personal related matters. Because you can recall, today is the 10th. Yesterday was the 9th, the day the judgment of the High Court on the gratuity matter was delivered. So the touchy and the emotions are actually inevitable. But the point we are to make is that the decorum of the proceedings of our committee should not be eroded by personal vendettas and personal points and personal interests. So we're going to look at that report and see how far we'll go with it.
But how will you be able to determine what's personal and what's not? Because Mkhwebane had asked about Gcaleka's vision for the Public Protector Office and even made comparisons between the operations of the office now and during her tenure when she was the Public Protector. And in response, Gcaleka said that Mkhwebane was conflicted when it came to the institution. Do you as the committee agree, though, that she is conflicted in as far as these matters pertaining to a previous office are concerned? And I hear what you say, that all you care about is, are the matters being personal? So how do you determine what's personal? Because Mkhwebane then would never be able to exercise oversight over the Public Protector Office as mandated by her party, which has deployed her to the Justice Committee.
Look, the reality, Clement, is that Advocate Mkhwebane is the former public protector who just recently, yesterday, she was in court with the institution. So you naturally can't take away the personal feeling about the institution and how she was put out. But we've always avoided her using the committee for that particular purpose. But we have always stressed and be firm that the committee must be used for oversight-related matters on behalf of the people of South Africa. Now, this is what has been alleged, that there are SMSs that have been written to the CEO that are speaking and threatening the CEO relating to the gratuity matter. Now, that is the detail that the public protector is going to send us. Now, we are going to interrogate it closely to check if there is a close relationship of Advocate Mkhwebane with this kind of conduct. If we find that there is that close relationship, we'll therefore take the matter to the relevant structure of Parliament, which is actually the Ethics Committee.
All right, but what did the legal advice say the last time? Because this is not the first time that the issue of conflict has been raised in as far as the former public protector is concerned. I think when the deputy public protector interviews were being conducted, this matter came forth. Did you seek legal advice? My understanding is that it concluded there was conflict there. Does that then not guide you as to how you should approach even this current matter?
Yes, what we have done as it relates to the current process of recruiting the deputy protector is that we have said there must be a declaration form that is developed by Parliament. So that immediately, remember, nominations and applications are closing tomorrow. Now, what we'll do, we'll collate the entire data and the master list of those who applied. So if you have someone you know or you have a relationship with in that master list, you will therefore declare in that form. Now, we are avoiding what has happened before. Now, we are saying in this matter, because remember, this is a completely different matter, which speaks about Advocate Mkhwebane having been in office and a reasonable expectation that she may use her being a member of Parliament to fight her own battles with the public protector. So that's what we want to avoid at all costs.
Okay.
But for us to have a clear direction, we must first receive that report from the public protector, then we'll make a firm determination.
All right. Ngola, thank you so much for joining us on Face the Nation tonight. Now, there is currently a comfort service for the late Rema Church leader, Pastor Ray McCauley. It's underway now at Rema Bible Church in Randburg. Remember, Ray McCauley passed away at the age of 75 on Tuesday. He founded the church in 1979. He will be remembered for his role in South Africa's political and social transformation during the late apartheid years. You're watching now live visuals coming from that service. So that's something we're also watching very closely here on the SABC. After the break, though, we'll speak to the secretary of the ANC in Gauteng. Should Action SA, the EFF, and the ANC share power amongst the metros in the province? And how would that work? He'll help us understand. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. The ANC and Action SA have clinched a deal in Tshwane, resulting in the election of Dr. Nasiphi Moya as the capital's new mayor. Action SA's Moya secured 122 votes during yesterday's council sitting with the help of the ANC and the EFF, defeating the former DA mayor Cilliers Brink, who received only 86 votes. Now, in a media briefing earlier today, the EFF said that they support power sharing in Gauteng metros, which will see the ANC in charge of Johannesburg, Action SA in charge of Tshwane, and the EFF in charge of Ekurhuleni. So how would this power sharing agreement actually work if indeed it is seen through. Let's now welcome the ANC Secretary in Gauteng, TK Nciza, who is joining us tonight on Face the Nation. TK, welcome back to the show. Good evening.
Evening, and evening to your viewers.
I want us to start with what happened in Tshwane yesterday. How involved are you going to be involved in the executive as the ANC? There have been suggestions that you'll be occupying possibly about 5 MMC positions, maybe take over the deputy position, deputy mayor position. What's the plan in as far as your involvement will be in the executive?
We will play a very critical role. Look, in terms of even developing a program itself, working together with all the parties that we have agreed with. But of course, you would know without a doubt that many of those councillors there are councillors of the ANC. Service delivery issues, we take them very serious because our councillors for the past 8 years have been under siege because of non-service of delivery in their areas. So without a doubt, we will be highly involved. And that's why we fought so hard for so many years. That's why even under pressure we did not move because we believed that if we allow Tshwane to continue the way it does, a lot of people will lose hope in the People's Parliament, which is the African National Congress. So without a doubt, we are going to play a critical role. We will send comrades that we believe will be able to play, make a positive contribution. And we believe that, including what Action SA would have deposited, it's sound people that we can be able to work with. They seem to be a very sound party with good people. Our focus is not partisan anymore. It's the people of Tshwane, because really 8 years has been very long.
Is it fair then to say the deputy mayor position would also go to the ANC?
We're finalizing that, but I think we're agreeing.
Okay. Will the EFF be accommodated in the executive?
They will be accommodated. They play a critical role. Like I said, the ANC will not win that municipality without a DA or Action SA. DA was very clear. It doesn't want to work with us. It just wants to have Tshwane on their own, which we could not agree to. And we're very clear that people of Tshwane voted for voted for the ANC, even worse in the last elections, when they saw that how it feels to be under the rule of Democratic Alliance. They took a clear, conscious decision to vote for the ANC. So we could not be bystanders and look at our people without servicing them. So, of course, EFF will play a critical role.
Why did you end up not going with your own candidate in Tshwane? And I know there were some people who were suggesting that it's because there are no skills and experienced people in Tshwane or in the council who could take up this crucial position of mayor. But as the ANC, because that's something you were considering, putting up your own candidate, why did you end up not going with that? I
wonder where does this notion come from, because we've got capable cadres in that council. You'll even see when we announce our cadres that will be part of the executive, well-skilled, educated comrades who have been in the administration of government, but also some, so we are very much confident about the comrades that we're going to deploy there. Politics is about persuasion. Our discussions with Action SA, as you know, started 2 months ago. They raised their argument. We raised our argument because politics is about give and take. And the reality is that they assisted us in stabilizing Johannesburg. As you would know, it was difficult at some point to pass a budget because of politics between us and economic freedom fighters. We needed to change that. Johannesburg plays a very critical role in the economy of this country. We could not continue the way things were happening there. And they came in handy, but also they were very much interested in what we're interested in, which is the service to our people. But our discussion started at that point. As we're finalizing Johannesburg, we had to rope in the regional leadership of Tshwane. Yeah. And Mashaba and his party did raise their interest of wanting to be a mayor. And we told him that we do have our own framework, but we'll have discussions because We understand the dynamics of Tshwane that are different from dynamics of Johannesburg. And I think after an extensive engagement that took about 2 months, because we had to go back to our provincial national leadership, give them the proposals, they raised their concerns. And when it was clear that if we really want to play a significant role in changing the situation in Tshwane, we'll have to go with Mashaba and his people. And he was honest to us in Johannesburg. And we felt, their candidate was also sound. And we're left with 16 months to go to the elections. The time, we don't have time. So you also need a person with a bit of experience of that municipality. As you would know, it has many challenges, the issue of the stability of the finances and so on.
Okay.
But of course, bring a solid team to work with her.
What must the residents of Tshwane judge you against as a coalition? So what are your targets? What do you plan to achieve, say, in the next year? Because a lot needs to be done to be fixed. So they can say, you've spent a year as a coalition, either you've failed or you've managed to achieve.
Service all the people of Tshwane, not only affluent areas. Just human dignity. What you see in the townships of Tshwane has been really a disaster. We need to deal with that decisively, because if you know, I would have raised this thing with you before. Atteridgeville was one of the cleanest townships. When you enter there, you can't even recognize it. Continue with the plans that we had. Tshwane was going to be, by now we believe it would have been a world-class city. What was happening in terms of investments, so that we can be able to create jobs, because our people don't have jobs. We need to be able to stabilize the finances of Tshwane for us to attract investment. Once you do that, you then build confidence to the investors so that they can be able to come in their numbers to invest, and so that we can boost the economy and create jobs, because jobs is what our people are looking for, and that's what we need to do.
But if Tshwane was doing so well as you described during your tenure as the ANC, why then in 2016 did you not get an overwhelming majority?
Well, I guess let's accept the fact that there would have been mistakes, like any other political party.
Mistakes or failures?
Maybe failures as well, because you need to learn from your mistakes. Internal politics are mistakes and failures. And I think that's why the ANC is talking about the renewal of the African National Congress, because we have to recognize that sometimes putting factional politics ahead of our people and ahead of the ANC itself becomes a problem. But of course, the issues of service delivery here and there. But I guess people of Tshwane would have been exposed to a lot of progress. And sometimes as human beings, we believe certain things will continue to be better under a different regime, and they turn out not to be. That's why they are recognizing the ANC as the organization of their choice, and we will need to step up. We'll need to do better. We'll also need to understand internally, comrades in Tshwane, that putting the politics of affection will not assist Tshwane. We need to put the ANC first and make sure that we do things different in that part of our city.
What do you mean when you say they're recognizing the ANC as the political party of their choice? Who is that? The people of Tshwane?
I'm saying we are going to that direction because we have improved. Yes, including in the last elections.
Okay, cool. So the EFF has suggested that there are talks to share power in the metros in Gauteng, that you maintain Johannesburg but be fully in charge. They take over Ekurhuleni, and Action SA takes full control of Tshwane. Where are those talks, and what would that mean?
I looked at that interview, so I didn't hear that, and I must be honest with you, because I would have heard people speaking about that. So I gave myself time, and I would have heard him differently, because...
What did you hear?
In fact, what I heard is that we don't want to destabilize, we are fine with the status quo, we just want to support. Our problems are in Ekurhuleni because of this and that. There are no talks like that.
No, but Julius Malema said that also. Nkululeko Dunga said that as well. On the day that Dr. Nasiphi Moya was elected, he said, we are in advanced talks for us to share power in Gauteng. That's
Well,
what
maybe
he said.
I wouldn't speak on behalf of the EFF, but as a person who leads the delegation, at least in Gauteng, sitting with the national leadership in those discussions, there are no talks like that.
Okay.
We have not spoken about taking this metro take. We do have a framework. That we must also recognize that. Part of our disagreements with DA is exactly that. In all these metros, we are the leading party. We cannot have an influence in the executive because it has a direct impact on the African National Congress. And that's where we are. And where we are, we have agreed that where we can work together, we should do that. But a leading coalition partner is the ANC. And it's understood across. And from where we are, I think if Dunga said it, but I listened to the interview today, you know.
Yeah, maybe you didn't listen to the right parts.
I didn't
but
hear.
Even Dunga also said it.
Yeah, there's no power sharing at all.
So where do they get
mayor.
that?
Maybe power sharing is another story. But there is no mayor that will be a mayor of the EFF in a metro for now.
Okay. That's so interesting because
it's
so
not
fundamentally different from what the EFF has said. Okay, now let's talk about the ANC in Gauteng. The last time I spoke to you, you were raising concerns about Helen Zille.
Yeah.
And you said she's sort of trying to create factions within the ANC or be part of some faction in the ANC. How has the ANC in Gauteng explained the remarks by its chair, Banyaza Lusufi, on the GNU? Because there seems to be a confusion around what he said and whether he undermined the ANC, the NEC resolution on the issue and the democratic centralism in the ANC. How was that matter resolved?
Look, I was not part of that meeting, first of all. So I would not have facts of what would have happened in a meeting. What I know, as a matter of fact, is that is what the chair would have told me, and is what we all saw, how the Secretary General would have explained. A part of what he said is that Banyaza explains the GNU very well, which were, you know, it means that there were certain concerns from certain quarters they needed to hear from him. But subsequently to that, he would have watched, you know, the whole video now instead of the clip, and have an appreciation of what the chairperson was saying and where he was coming from. So I think the matter was closed like that.
So he wrote a very strongly worded letter to an ANC chairperson in Gauteng without getting the full context, watching the full interview.
Well, I guess he had concerns. I would not venture into that. He had concerns. The Secretary General, like I am in the Provincial Secretary, when I have concerns from time to time, I will...
But you want to accuse people of defying the collective leadership without getting the context?
No, I'm saying he might have had concerns as a Secretary General and wanted to, you know, have a clarity from the chair. And he did get that clarity, and he's satisfied with that clarity, and we're happy with that.
Have you indicated maybe to the ANC at National to communicate with the DA about how, for instance, Helen Zille has been, what she has been saying, particularly around the ANC in Gauteng? Because I know I've heard Fikile Mbalula say it's not true that ANC Gauteng has tensions with ANC National. When ANC Gauteng takes decisions, it's because there have been consultations with National ANC. But Helen Zille has been suggesting publicly that that's not really the case. And she's been pointing fingers at Banyaza Lusufi, that it's the ANC under his leadership that is now frustrating this working relationship with the ANC. Is the ANC actually communicating to the DA that that has to stop if they're unhappy about this attitude?
I think the Secretary General would have done that yesterday. In fact, when he had an interview with Comrade Banyaza, the first when we were dealing with the issue of the provincial government, the Secretary General was very firm even in that press conference to say that we are behind and supporting the provincial leadership to form the government. But DA chooses not to listen to that or ignores it for whatever reason. Remember, divide and rule has always been part of those who are your opponents or the oppressors, if I may put it in that fashion, or your detractors. So in our view, it has always been their divide and rule strategy. I mean, look at what the provincial leader says. Panyaza decides to do this because he's looking for support. He doesn't have support in the PC. You can only see that this person does not know what they're talking about, because the coalition program that we're busy with, it's a program given to us by structures of the ANC in our conference. They gave us a very clear mandate. Go and make sure that we're able to play a significant role in our wards, in this government, so that we can be able to have an impact as the African National Congress. It can't be some people in the PC or some people. So you can see that there is an attempt to want to enter politics of the ANC without understanding them. And they will fail, without a doubt, because the ANC in the province is united, because it has a mandate from a conference.
TK Nciza, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. After the break, here on Face the Nation, we'll be speaking to the Minister of Human Settlements, Mmamoloko Kubayi. There are a number of people that have been raising concerns about being on the waiting list for government housing for a number of years. Some people have waited as long as 20 years. So what's the plan? How long do they have to wait before they can be afforded government housing? That conversation and more coming up after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The question we've been asking you tonight is around politicians and whether or not they should be held accountable for harmful or false accusations, even under the guise of political speech. This is in the context of what Julius Malema said about Dr. Naledi Pandor, only to backtrack and to suggest that it was just political engagement. So let's look at what you've had to say on Twitter. Xolile says everyone should be held accountable for his or her actions, no matter who they are in society. Our constitution makes us equal. That's a message there from Xolile. Mr. M says, I fully agree that they must be held accountable. Political engagements should not be based on lies which tarnish someone else's reputation. Mogale says, I think all politicians must really be held accountable for their harmful slurs against other persons. They shouldn't get away with malicious slander under the guise of political speak. The best form of leadership is exemplary leadership. And lastly, Elon says, yes, holding politicians accountable for their words can promote responsible discourse, ensure integrity in public debate, and protect democratic processes from being undermined by falsehoods or harmful rhetoric. All right, so we have received also some of your WhatsApp voice notes on this particular matter. So let's take a listen to what some of you have had to say.
Sam Alekotrikopis Clement Dumela. Politics itself is not a good thing to toy around with. You can find yourself in a terrible conditions trying to shine politically. Even in politics, we still need to be very much respectful. Bye-bye.
My name is Gift Ngondi from the Eastern Cape. I think politicians must be taken to task for spreading or parading lies about individuals or making serious allegations about individuals because they want to impugn on the reputation and integrity of those individuals. And they must be taken to task. And if I was Dr. Naledi Pandor, I was going to take Julius Malema to task because Julius Malema's followers believed what Julius said. And Dr. Naledi Pandor must continue pursuing that legal matter to suit Julius.
Good evening, Clement Mongezi from Bloemfontein, the Free State. Clement, I think they should be held accountable, especially young people like Julius Malema. The way he speaks to the elderly people, it doesn't matter whether you're a politician or who you are, but you don't need to be disrespectful in the name of politician, being a politician or robust engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your tweets and your WhatsApp voice notes. Let's move to this now. Human Settlements Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi has expressed concern at the high number of people who cannot access housing. Just less than 6 million mortgage and home loan applications were received and processed between 2018 to 2022. And of this number, 2 million were from previously previously disadvantaged backgrounds with just over 1 million approvals. She joins us now to talk about issues of her department. Minister, thank you so much for coming to studio. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening to you and your viewers at home.
I want to start off with the issue of housing. When I tweeted that you were going to be on the show, there are a number of people that said, let's talk about people who have been on the list to receive housing. I mean, there are people that have waited as long as 20 years sometimes. What's the update with that? Are you sorting out that backlog successfully?
Yeah, especially the issue of BNG backlog, more on the 1996 list, is more in Gauteng. So other provinces we've been able to move to recent years in terms of the work. I had a conversation with MEC Mutara where I was asking that my concern in Gauteng, we've built a lot of houses, and the question you ask yourself, who are the people that are in our houses? So what is coming across, firstly, is that we've had syndicates in Gauteng who have literally taken over houses, working in some of the allegations that I have, working with some of the officials. You'd remember during the media briefing, I did announce that we are establishing a process where we will bring together forensic investigators that will work together with lawyers so that we are able to deal with that comprehensively. That's a major issue. Majority of the houses that we've built, so we've built in Gauteng, but the majority of the houses that we've built have not gone to the rightful owners.
Who have they gone to?
And that's why you have a majority of the people in Gauteng, your 1996 list, that have not been responded to. So others, you'll go on the system, you find, because we are able to enter their numbers, you find a number, you enter, it says the house has been allocated. You go and check who is in the house is not the rightful person. Now, part of the issues of prosecution that we want to embark onto, and that's why I've announced that process. We've said to the South African public, those who are in the houses wrongfully, we are requesting before we arrest them, they must hand over the house's keys so that we can take them over. But what we are hearing now is that in some of the instances, you find gangsters going into communities and also taking people out of the houses. So it's a huge issue problem that needs now law enforcement, and that's why we want to combine huge information around that. But again, we do have a backlog in terms of delivery because population growth, we've not been able to build versus the number of people that have been.
Are those syndicates that are running also operating from within some government departments, or is it just purely gangsters?
Currently, we do not have information, especially at national and provincial, that we have such syndicate operating. But what I do say, I said to the team, surely somebody's providing them with information. So it might not be a collaborative effort where they are doing, but somebody's giving them to say, this is the project, this is how far we've gone. They would know the pattern that we've moved from here. Our eyes will not be in a project, for example, that has been there for a year and all those things. So that's what we have to deal with.
And in terms of the number, when it comes to the backlogs, where are you sitting at now?
We're sitting around 2.5
million.
Yes, 2.5 million that we've got to verify. And this is what I say, it's growing and it's changing, it's dynamic. And that's why I spoke about the issue of a digital system. Because if Mmamoloko has applied, but Mmamoloko now has a house or has been employed, no longer qualified, you need to be able to do a cleaning up system. So we've asked the provinces as well to say, can we find mechanisms of saying those that are in our list, can we verify them, that they are there? For example, in Free State, we said they must clean up their database to make sure that we can be able to have senior citizens, for example, that are saying they've not benefited. In other areas, experience with military veterans. We receive a list from Military Veterans Department to say these are military veterans that we've got to provide. When we went into HSS, which is our system, Human Settlement Subsidy System, we found them. When we go on the ground to check, these are not the real people. So there's that issue of us.
So who released those homes? Because I mean, I would imagine if Clement has been on the list, I must sign somewhere that I am Clement, this is proof of who I am, this is the house I'm getting into. So if you check on the system and I'm not there, it's somebody else, there's something wrong there with the process where the allocation is happening.
Okay, let me just say, when I got to the portfolio, and I'll make Free State as an example, there were quite a lot of allegations about what has happened in the Free State and human settlements. So there are provinces which are a bit problematic for us as human settlements. So we went there, for example, I went to a senior citizen where I found staying in a mud house. I walked in, I asked, have you applied? Because we're doing our own work verifying. And only to find that somebody actually got the senior citizen to sign a happy letter. And I asked her, why did you sign this when you're not in a house? And she just said, I'm going to get a house. So the explanation as well was that you are going to get a house, sign this. And this is criminality. Fortunately, some of those cases are in court, and we've got people actually facing the consequence. This is one of the beneficiaries of the material in Free State. So you do have those incidences. Yes, officials are before court, appearing together with other politicians. That's another issue. But you do find a situation whereby within the system, Mmamoloko is not told that your house is finished. And then they remove Mmamoloko and put somebody else on the name that Mmamoloko can't be found. And you find that Mmamoloko is there, for example, in Gauteng. We have such incidences. Majority of those are in Ekurhuleni, by the way. So you find that majority of the people who are in the houses are not. I went to Ekurhuleni one time last year. That's where the issue of this forensic process started. Because we went, I was in Imbizo in a hall full of almost 90% people that says, I have a house number, but somebody else is in my house.
Yeah.
So an RDP has been given, issued in my name, but somebody else has been given. And when I go there, I'm threatened, so I need help from government.
Okay, so let's talk about informal settlements now, because the lack of urban housing is quite a big issue in South Africa. And there are many people who are far from economic opportunities, and they end up really getting into informal settlements. How far are you in just the formalization of informal communities? How are you dealing with that? Because that has its own challenges where there are lack of services there.
Yeah, we've got 1,500 informal settlements that we're working on in various phases. We're concluding this MTSF with them. What we do with informal settlements, first, the ones that have been established, we try and make sure that they have services, what we call human rights services. A toilet, an ability to be able to have a toilet and water, whether in terms of temporary. So those we do provide as human settlements under 2 grants, an informal settlement upgrading grant in the metros and in the provinces where they cover areas which are non-metros. Out of that, then we have a program where we start when the land has been formalized, then we can be able to put permanent services, and then out of those, then cut sites, put roads, and that's part of informal settlement upgrading program. One of the issues that we've recently as well started to do is interventions to ensure that we can upgrade in Sutu. This is where people are as a first priority, because that is easier for us. All we need to do is reblock where they are clustered to the informal settlements, and then we're working with NGOs to assist us, especially in the Western Cape where we had a lot of fires that have happened. And therefore we said we must reblock as part of our program, and then the delivering agent for us as human settlement in the provinces and the municipalities in terms of informal settlement upgrading. So there's quite good progress. For example, here in Gauteng, when you go and look at the project in Zandspruit, you'll find that there's been quite good program. We're about to give 700 sites in that area. This is part of land release, which we will be able to. We're not building PNGs. These are people who are saying, we just want service sites and will be able to build for us. So that's part of the program we're doing in dealing with informal settlements.
So some South Africans don't earn enough to qualify for a home loan, but they earn too much also to obtain government housing. How are you assisting this missing middle access affordable housing?
Yeah, we do have a program, and it's got its own shortcoming, and I'll come to that. We have a program that we're doing currently, which is called First Home Financing. So these are first home buyers who are trying to get a home mortgage. We support them. Those who are earning between 3,500 and 22,000. And then they apply with us, and then we are able to support them in terms of being able to build, either build for themselves. The program that we just launched now, Kaya, which you buy material, we support you to get material, and you build where you have sites. And then those who are doing bonds for the first time, they can be able to. The weakness there, and that's why the fight. That's why I raised my concern with the banks, that between 22,000, previously it was 27, between 22,000 and 30 or 32,000 actually this year, anyone who's earning that between will not be able to access any service support from government and private sector. So public and private sector in terms of ownership for a property in this country. And that's a concern for me, because we've got to have products for everybody. Now, the issue that we need to deal with, the banks are saying, no, Minister, extend beyond 22,000 to go to 32,000 we are. And I'm saying all of us have an obligation. So it can't be only government that says we are going to subsidize, therefore come in. So we've got to look at those issues. What is it? So I've committed. I know BASA reached out to say they're not happy. They thought that I was bashing them. I was not bashing them. I'm raising issues on behalf of South Africans. So I've said to them, we'll have breakfast session where we must have an approach on how we resolve the issue of gap market, because we can't have South Africans who can own. And it means they are perpetually going to be subjected to rental and sometimes high level of rentals.
Yeah, and I mean, the banks have also said, we have our own business and risk criteria. We're not going to be reckless and just issue out the loans.
No, we are not saying they must be reckless. We're saying they must be responsible, but accountable and transparent. So, for example, I said to them, one of the person who came to me said, I applied for a home loan for Sandton. For the same amount of a property, I was declined. I then went and applied for a home loan in Midrand. For the same amount of a property, I was approved. He says, Minister, tell me, what is it? Are they saying to us, I'm good enough to stay in Midrand, not in Sandton? And those are simple questions. I said to the banks, transparency will help you even for me to defend you as a minister. If you give me data that you are required to give me, we will analyze it as the Department of Human Settlements, and if there are false accusations, because we'll have tested it, then we'll be able to say it's not correct. But where we must be worried as South Africans is that why would you, if there's nothing to hide, worry about transparency of data? And we're not saying tell us this is Clement, this is Mmamoloko. No, we are saying give us that you've been able to give loans for between this category and this category, in which areas, and what is the interest rate. That's all.
Yeah. How are you dealing with the issue of the construction mafia and corruption within the sector? Because that's another challenge.
Okay, let me start with the corruption and the construction, and I'll come to the corruption. On the construction mafias, what we have as a challenge is that we've now, obviously, as a sector, started to incur cost on security. So part of the issue, we said to the team, let's look at the bill of quantities that we allow for contractors to be able to, as a reality, for them to be able to include security as part of their work, because most of them are majority which have been complaining are women who are attacked on site and leave businesses. So we want to protect them. But we reach out to Minister Mkhunu and the security cluster to assist us, which they are definitely saying, we need a bilateral meeting, but in the meantime, they're also looking at it. They've asked us to clarify how we would monitor the issue of 30%. For example, we encourage localization to say, if you are a big contractor, you have a 30 million project, you must be able to allocate for local SMMEs. So they're saying, clarify that how you do it, give us the process so that we are able to eliminate those that are doing wrong, not the ones that are SMME. Because when we go, we find this construction mafia, some of them just say, we are SMMEs, we are being targeted. So they wanted us to clarify that. And we are doing that in terms of our policy. That's the first thing. And what we are raising is that the problem is when a person wants a 30% and they go and sit at home, that contractor still has to do the job of the person that would have been. So we're working together to be able to do that. We're hoping that will be able, but it's not an easy one. We do have intimidation. I mean, in 3 weeks' time, I have a staff member who received death threats, including her own child. I've been previously threatened because when you say no, then people don't understand, or you are targeted to say, no, minister is not signing off the budget. And then your letter to a municipality that asks questions about particular projects then gets circulated in groups. For example, in KZN, that's what happened. I wrote a letter asking questions about projects, saying, clarify why you're spending in this pattern, because it shows that there's something wrong. The letter ends up, when you say, I'm withdrawing money from your municipality, that letter ended up in a chat group of Madela Ngubon with a message, Ukubaya gafuni ngemali. So, and with that, then puts your life at risk. And those are some of the reality that we have. And I always say, if that can happen to me as a minister, what more about a contractor, what more about an official at a lower level who does monitoring? On corruption in the sector. I think we're coming a long way. There's quite a lot of work that we've done. I don't think we are yet 100%. When I arrived 2021, one of the issues that was to deal with where we find wrongdoings and projects that have gone wrong. I've been compiling reports, sending them to SIUs, requesting them to assist because they have capacity to investigate.
Mmamoloko Kubayi, Minister of Human Settlements, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. And thanks to you for watching the Thursday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back with you on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Cheers.